This week on Talking Royals, Prince William and Sir David Attenborough join forces on the environment.
What we have done to the deep ocean floor is just unspeakably awful.
And I think what we're seeing here is that passing of baton between generations.
We tackle some of your questions.
I think this could be a slightly loaded question. I don't know.
The hat has to be of a certain diameter.
And we've got a surprise for Chris.
Did you know about this?
No.
All right.
Oh,
You didn't.
my gosh.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Charlene Wides and Chris and Lizzie are with me after yet another busy week. Well, not so much for you because you actually didn't go anywhere, but you were in Monaco.
I was here with you.
You were here with me.
Yes, I've
But
been
you
in
flew out to Monaco.
Flew to Monaco with the Prince of Wales, who was in Monaco for the Blue Economy and Finance Forum. And this was all around World Oceans Day, which was on Sunday. And the Prince gave a landmark speech, that's what his office called it, while he was in Monaco. And this was all about calling for action to save our oceans and kind of using his platform to highlight the work that needs to be done to protect them. And he also met some of his Earthshot Prize finalists when he was there before that speech and had a chance to meet some world leaders who were also there. There was President Lula da Silva from Brazil. Brazil is hosting COP later this year. It's also going to be where the Earthshot Prize goes. So Prince William, we haven't had confirmation from his office yet that he'll be there, although somebody did shout as he arrived at the forum, "Are you looking forward to Brazil?" And he said yes. And I think it would be a huge surprise if he didn't go to
Prince William doesn't go to his own awards ceremony.
President Macron from France was there, Prince Albert, and President Chavez from Costa Rica was also there.
Halfway through this decisive decade, I call on all of you to think big in your actions. Let us act together with urgency and optimism while we still have the chance. For the future of our planet, for the future generations, we must listen to the words of Sir David Attenborough. If we save the sea, we save our world.
Yeah, he and Sir David Attenborough have been doing quite a few bits and pieces together lately, haven't they?
Yes, I mean, people might know that Sir David Attenborough, who, by the way, is 99 years old, and it always amazes me that, you know, despite being 1 year away from 100, he's got the same level of enthusiasm for his work that he's always had. So he's got this new film out called Ocean with David Attenborough, which and the King went to the premiere a little while ago. And William had a private showing of the premiere, but whilst he was there, he then had a conversation with David Attenborough. It was filmed by them for us, but when they released it, it was a very interesting chat that the two of them had. And interestingly, how Sir David was saying that one of the problems with damage to the ocean is that it's out of sight, out of mind. He said if that level of destruction happened on land, people, in his words, would be up in arms. And because it's in the sea, we can't see it. The damage we're doing to the seabed, it's absolutely horrendous and will affect us all. As William said at the end there, if we save the oceans, we save the world.
Dave, from what you've obviously seen over the years, what states would you say the oceans are in right now?
The thing which I am appalled by when I first saw the shots that were taken for this film are what we have done to the deep ocean floor is just unspeakably awful. I mean, if you did anything remotely like it on land, everybody would be up in arms. And I can only hope that people who see it will recognise that something must be done before we destroy this great treasure.
Prince William has spoken a lot recently, actually, about how David Attenborough has inspired him. He's been an inspiration in a lot of the work that he's done around the environment. And I think what we're seeing here is that passing of baton between generations.
Can I argue, though, that a lot of his inspiration should have come from his dad? Because his dad has been talking about climate change and the impacts of our daily lives.
And also his grandfather.
And his grandfather.
Yeah, there's that thread, isn't there, that runs through the royal family from Prince Philip to the now King to Prince William. And I think, all of those will have played a part in inspiring Prince
Dare
William.
I say it, that when a parent says something to their child, they do the complete opposite. And when someone else says the same thing, that is what happens. But yeah, of course, the King can do less campaigning now. He's got the same views on climate and damage to the oceans that he's always had, but he can't do it in the same campaigning way that he did when he was Prince of Wales. And obviously the baton now is increasingly passing to Prince William, and he's taking it up not only with this Oceans Week, as they called it his office called it last week. He's also got this new film that has been produced by United for Wildlife, which is one of his organisations run by the Royal Foundation, and it's called Guardians. It's about the really, really dangerous job of looking after our wildlife. So that's whether you're a ranger in Africa or whether you're patrolling the oceans in Mexico. It's a really dangerous job, and we should be much more grateful to those who effectively put their lives on the line, and some are actually killed in the line of duty trying to protect wildlife in these areas.
I'm going to do a bit of a shameless plug because we've been doing a lot on the climate this week from Antarctica, and I think that range of emotions regarding what's happening to a lot of the wildlife that's there and the oceans that are there provokes that kind of elicits those sorts of emotions as well. Because Martin Stew, one of our correspondents, he's been in the Antarctic doing some stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah, and what a phenomenal piece of work that has been. And we haven't been as an organisation to Antarctica since 2007. We've gone back this week and done a whole series of reports about the dangers of melting icebergs, of the dangers to the emperor penguins who live there. Just the cut in funding, for example, that Donald Trump's Department of Government and Efficiency has had an effect on places like the research station, right at the very bottom tip of the world, if you like. So it's been phenomenal to watch that stuff and see a place on Earth that none of us are ever likely to go to.
It's just incredible. And if any of you haven't seen it, you can see all of Martin's films on ITV because we've uploaded all of them to there.
I thought what was interesting was listening to William, and he has done this a lot actually when he's talking about the environment, is he always talks about the optimism that he has. He said when he very first launched the Earthshot Prize that a lot of the talk around the environment is very pessimistic, and what he wanted was to provide an optimistic sort of foundation for people to feel like there is a chance to make a difference. And so much of what he does with Earthshot is about finding solutions that they can then upscale to make a difference. But he said several times in his speech on Sunday about that optimism that he has, and that there is still time for us to make a difference and to turn the tide, as he says.
Well, sort of returning to the Antarctica, it's interesting that, Chris, you sort of talk about the fact that we've visited there and looked at the way in which it's been impacted by climate change. But this appears to be a conversation that has happened numerous times over the years. I mean, in our we're going back in the archive again, but we're going back to 2007 when Princess Anne was in Antarctica, and she spoke about, even back then in 2007, was speaking about the dangers of climate change. And so it feels as though the royals have always been at the forefront of this, but not everyone was necessarily listening.
Yes, and of course Princess Anne, feels this in the same way because she obviously was the daughter of Prince Philip, who would take his children out and tell them all these things as well. And actually, don't forget that Prince Philip went on a big tour on the Royal Yacht Britannia, and he wrote books about it and the birds he saw from Britannia and things. He's always had a passion for it, and that's what we were saying earlier, has passed down through the generations. And you're right to say, there was Princess Anne talking to our presenter at the time, Mark Austin, in Antarctica. Let's think that Tony Blair was Prime Minister then. Since then we've had Gordon Brown, David Cameron, Theresa May, and then we had the sort of flip of Tory MPs, down to return to a Labour Prime Minister now, who has also been talking to us this week about oceans and his commitment to to helping the planet. So you're right to say that this has been an issue that's been around for a long time. The King himself has been talking about it since 1970, and yet here we are in 2025, and not a lot seems to have happened. All the damage, as we saw this week in our reports, is still happening.
Well, you mentioned Princess Anne talking to Mark Austin. Let's take a look.
Do you think the world is taking climate change seriously enough? No, I think it perhaps comes under the inconvenient heading, doesn't it? Because actually what it means is that we're probably rather dirty and idle because we've produced a whole lot of things which make life easier, but at the same time they're rather dirty, and we accumulate more and more and are less good at using waste. And we've got to be really serious about that. As man, we've just got to, even if it wasn't for global warming, to be frank, we need to tidy up our act because we are filthy.
Such a Princess Anne line.
Isn't it? Yeah. I bet she's still got the hat. She's still got the hat. I bet you any money she's still got that hat. She's probably worn it 4 or 5 times since.
But she could be talking in 2025.
Of course, yeah.
Could be saying exactly those same words in 2025.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, isn't it, them using their position to try and, we talk about this a lot on this podcast about what is the point in the royal family, and it's them using their position that they have to try and highlight issues and draw attention to them. And it's exactly what Prince William is doing, and exactly the reason that he went to that forum on Sunday. Interestingly, people around him have talked a lot in recent years about how he is becoming more of a statesman on the world stage, and somebody very close to him said that they felt that was the most statesmanlike that they had ever seen him. So,
but it's, I know, one could argue that yes, they're on this great platform to be able to highlight these things, but if there's no real tangible change as a result of the words that they're speaking, are they really having the impact that they would like?
I suppose William would say there is tangible change. You look at some of his projects that have come out of Earthshot. So there's 5 finalists in 5 different categories every year. And actually one of them we featured because as part of our reports on the damage to the oceans, we reported from the Bahamas. And there is a start-up there called Coral Vita, which was one of the finalists of Prince William's winner, one of the Earthshot Awards. In fact, the first one, I believe it could be, or the second one, 2020 or 2021. They are able to grow coral something like 50 times faster than it would grow naturally, and they're able to sort of try and, repair the oceans. So there is a solution. Okay, small scale. But William's idea of Earthshot is to make it large scale. And you could also argue, and actually it was President Biden who said to the King when he saw him at at a World Summit recently, "You're the guy that started all this." So if if world leaders recognise, I know you could say America's taking a huge step back in this area at the moment.
Yeah, he's cut funding.
But certainly under Presidents Obama and Biden, this was very much something that politicians were looking at King Charles as providing the lead.
For anyone that's new to this podcast, I mostly tend to be studio based, whereas you guys get to go travelling. So when you go travelling, the deal is you bring back a gift. And neither Chris or I were travelling.
Yeah.
You went to Monaco and Nice, had a lovely time. Where's the gift?
I was run off my feet, so I'm afraid there's no gift.
Oh, you literally have to check into the airport like 2 hours before.
I know. Next time.
There are shops in airports, aren't
there? As far as I'm aware, yes, there are. You get let off that once.
Thanks.
I'll have you know. Now, Catherine wasn't in Monaco or Nice. She was here because she was at the V&A East Storehouse in Stratford, which is a new building where the V&A is storing everything that they basically have acquired.
It's like over 500,000 works. Incredible.
And rather than sort of keeping this all in a back room somewhere or a storage container somewhere where the public can't see it, actually we as members of the public can go to the storehouse, we can put into a computer thing that we want to see, and they will locate it for you, and you can sit with a member of staff as you look at what could be a priceless item. It's incredible.
It's like a museum version of Argos.
Basically, yes, but you have to give it back, obviously.
You can't take it away.
No.
But you go in, you order it, it comes down the conveyor belt. Yeah, and then there you go.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Yeah, over 500,000 creative works. She called it an eclectic mix, which I think is a fair summary of it. And we saw her in some of the pictures seeing the largest Picasso canvas. That's one of the things you can see. But she's passionate about the arts. It's something she has in common with her father-in-law, King Charles, who is also very passionate about this area.
I think it's, and I think it's just a wonderful thing to have these pieces of art and let it be available to the public, because essentially, the art that's within the V&A is supposed to be accessible to all. So for them to build this and do this, I think is quite an incredible feat.
You could almost do like it's a second museum, couldn't you? Here's all the bits that we can't display in the V&A.
Yeah.
So
because in each display, I forgot the number, but when they do a special display, a special collection like the Naomi collection or Elton John, for example, there is a maximum number of pieces that they can show in any of those exhibitions, and anything else that can't be used, it has to go into storage, because that's the way that the V&A works. So that's how they've ended up with so much stuff, which is amazing.
It is, isn't it?
I remember a year ago having this conversation about Trooping with the Colour, where Catherine was concerned, and we were like, is she going to be there, is she not? And I cannot believe that was a year ago.
And I thought you were going to say, I can't believe that you predicted it correctly that she would go.
Yes, you did predict
We
it
did, didn't
correctly.
we? Because we kind of thought all the mood music, and of course, if we rewind 12 months, Catherine was still having her cancer treatment, or at least we think she was. She hadn't announced that it was over. And therefore, we thought, what is going to happen with Trooping in Colour? Because for a start, that balcony is going to look very thin on the ground if she were not there. And do you remember, I think, didn't this come up in the Christmas quiz? Dare I mention it? Wasn't that the King and Princess Kate were put side by side as a sort of, they don't normally stand in that configuration, because obviously both of them have been through that really difficult time.
Yeah, it was a significant moment last year. It was her first entry in the Court Circular, that royal diary that gets published. It was her first entry in the Court Circular for the year, and she wanted to go to Trooping to be there to support her family. And we did see her alongside the King, but also with George, Charlotte and Louis, and of course Prince William. And I think it was a moment, wasn't it, last year, where they'd had a really, really difficult year as a family, and to see them all on the balcony together, I think people, it was a really nice moment to see them all
So there is
together.
all these questions about what is Trooping the Colour and why does the King or Queen have 2 birthdays?
Yes.
Yes, that's what it kind of comes up every year. So worth saying that Trooping the Colour is the King's official birthday parade.
Yes.
It's held in the summer on a Saturday in June, because if you did it on the King's actual birthday in November, it might not be so nice.
Cold,
but then
rainy,
again,
gloomy.
having been there last year, it was quite cold.
It was absolutely biblical rain.
And it stretches back it became an annual event at the time of George III, but it's believed to have started initially under King Charles II.
Yeah.
So it's been around for a long time.
Will you guys be there?
But we will be watching.
Okay.
Yes.
But not necessarily outside.
That was a no, wasn't it?
That was
a
a
no.
really incredible way of saying no.
Do I want to stand in the torrential rain again? Actually, we were the only broadcaster last year that didn't have one of those little sort of mini marquees. So like we were like sheltering in between BBC, Sky, CNN, and everyone else, and me and Lizzie had one umbrella between us.
It's because you keep buying me gifts from when you go abroad.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll be able to afford the umbrella this year, don't worry.
Do you know what? We're getting loads of interaction from both viewers and listeners, those that are watching us on YouTube, but also those that are listening to us from wherever they listen to their podcast. And they've been sending in questions, which we love, by the way. So I'm going to do some quick fire questions in your direction, if that's all right. We've got one from David Hine. All these, I've just chosen 3 from Facebook. But David Hine says, which members of the royal family will be at Royal Ascot next week?
All of them.
I would suspect, we do traditionally see most members of the royal family.
Yeah, because they like
it
horses.
was something that the late Queen absolutely loved. She was passionate about horse racing. And I think the racing industry wondered when she was no longer here whether that would be passed on to the King and the Queen. And they have been real supporters of racing in the last few years. And I would expect to see them there. They might even have some runners. You might remember in 2023, they had their first Royal Ascot winner with Desert Hero, and the King was seen looking incredibly emotional in the balcony. So I would expect
all
to
of the
see
late
them.
Queen's horses became the King's horses. So therefore, all of those horses that she was training were and
so I would expect a good royal turnout. I'd expect
because they kind of scatter across the week, don't they?
Yes.
Really, they don't all go on the same day.
Yes, yeah.
They sort of, just spread the royal glitter.
But the late Queen went pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, she went every day. She absolutely loved it.
But the carriages come clip-cloppeting down the sort of the race course.
And
before the races
we
get
might
underway.
pop along too, mightn't we?
We might go see.
When you go, will you go dressed up?
Yeah.
What?
Going on a day out.
This is a silly question. When you go, do you go in the royal enclosure? Is what you're asking, and of course we do.
Oh
No, but then Sid, are you in
Yes, we
tails?
have to. So the rules of the royal enclosures, you have to wear a top hat and tails. Maybe we should get a picture of me and Lizzie in top hat and tails.
Yes, please.
So we're going next Wednesday, and you will see us on Thursday.
You have lots of rules about what you can and can't wear. Like, has to be so what's it called? The strap on the shoulder.
Strap on the shoulder has to be
fashion's
a
my
certain...
strong point. It has to be a certain width.
Yeah, you can't have bra straps showing. You can't be
The hat has to be a certain diameter.
It can't be off the shoulder or anything, I don't think.
Yeah, you have
can't do strapless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what else?
The rules are strict in the Royal
The
Enclosure.
hat has to be of a certain diameter.
We'll talk about, because I'm sure, because we have so many international viewers and listeners to this, I bet they would quite like to understand those rules, because I think they might find it interesting.
Yes.
We'll unpack Royal Ascot.
Yeah, we'll unpack Royal Ascot.
I'll get my top hat out,
There we
which
go.
only comes out once a year, and it is for Royal Ascot. So.
Right, Nick Goody, what tangible benefit do the royal family provide to the average Brit?
I think this could be a slightly loaded question. I don't know, Nick. Maybe you can answer that. But I suspect he's thinking, what's the point? You could, and actually, that is a very good question. What's the point of monarchy? Well, for a start, you do need a head of state. So if you don't have a king or queen, you've got to have a president. Now, that president can either be an executive one like President Macron in France, or it can be more like a ceremonial one like they have in Ireland or Germany. And the royal family is meant to be there to do the things, to provide the head of state, head of nation, so to bring the country together, if you like. They don't have political views, or they don't express political views. And as we were talking about the environment earlier, they can help charities and causes and certain campaigns that basically politicians might not, because they're on electoral cycles. They're on 4 or 5-year cycles. In Australia, for example, it's only 3 years. And yet, a king, a queen is able to, champion causes that perhaps politicians can't or wouldn't. You look at all the difference that Queen Camilla's made on domestic violence. You look at the difference the King has made on the environment and supporting other skills like that. Look at the boost the late Queen provided to the racing industry that we've just been talking about. So they are a focus. Now, a lot of people say we could do without them. But if you did do without them, you'd still have to have an office of president, and that would still cost a certain amount of money. And the argument from the Republic campaign group is, well, you could do that and it would cost a lot less and we wouldn't have all this fancy pomp.
We do have our Royal Finances Week coming up, which is always, we have to get our calculators out.
Oh, yes.
That's in a couple of weeks.
Money.
Yeah. Not in the next few weeks.
In the next few weeks.
Right.
And finally from Tony Allen, why does William support Aston Villa, or in Tony's words, why does William support a rubbish football team?
So Prince William chose Aston Villa because family friends took him to a game for his first Villa game when he was young, and he really liked the camaraderie. He felt like he belonged. In 2016, I think they got relegated, and that sort of got him even more interested. And he just sort of found a real connection with the team and became really interested in it. But he is hoping that his children sort of find their own teams. They don't necessarily want to
You normally choose your team based on what your father or mother supported, or where you lived, but not always. And his is the I mean, I don't know if he ever lived in Birmingham anywhere. Probably Highgrove is probably the closest he's ever lived to Birmingham. But Aston Villa was a team he went to, he said, first when he was 17 years old, and stuck with it.
Before we go, I did promise that I was going to use the maple syrup that you brought me back from Canada for pancakes for the kids. And we did it day before yesterday. Both Alfie and Florence were very, very happy with the maple syrup from Uncle Chris and Auntie Lizzie.
Was it nice, the maple syrup?
It was really,
did they let you have any pancakes?
No, there was nothing left at all. And I did like the American-style pancakes.
I have to say, I was impressed. They were... You did it before the school run?
I did. I got up at 6 a.m. I made the batter.
Really? What's your ingredients?
My ingredients, so
flour,
they were
egg, milk.
No, because they were banana and oat muffins. They're pancakes. Got to keep healthy.
Wow.
Yeah. So oat flour instead of regular flour. So oat flour, bananas, an egg, some milk, and then the spice, cinnamon, a bit of nutmeg, and a little touch of vanilla.
Very impressive.
Even more impressed had you bought some in for us to try.
We could have tried them.
Well, look, you can just hear it from me and from my kids. They were delicious.
The kids did look very, very pleased.
Also, from last week, you promised us that you were going to bring in a picture of you in fancy dress as made by your mum from the Silver Jubilee when
I was alive and you two weren't.
To Prince Philip.
I'm not sure the two events were exactly the same, but there was me, and I said at the time that I was dressed as an apple tree, and you said, why were you dressed as an apple tree? My answer was, I've absolutely no idea. So I contacted Mr. and Mrs. Ship, and it took them the best part of a week to access the computer to get the thing off a slide. He then sent me, my dad then sent me a shot of the screen, like say on his phone, he took a shot of the monitor, and I said, Dad, haven't you not got this in a better quality? And I said, you do an attachment, you open up an email and then you attach the file. Anyway, yesterday it arrived, a week later.
Here we go.
Right. Oh, look at you!
I have no idea why.
Remind us what your
I
sister's
love those
dressed as.
I
flares.
think that's a bluebell.
Oh, okay.
And I was and I remember that garden very well.
So cute.
And there we go. That's it. In the best 1970s photography.
And how old are you here?
4-ish.
Oh.
You're so cute. So we've got you something special. I've got to
An
take
apple.
these, otherwise it's going to fall on the floor. So I'm going to go out of shot for literally 1 second.
Did you know about this?
No.
No, so I'm going to take something out of a bag. I'm not going to show
Getting
the bag
something
because
out
we
of a
can't do
supermarket carrier bag.
advertising. But we blew the budget
Oh my gosh. Oh my
and
gosh.
we have put Chris on a mug. Do you see him? There he is as this cute
Oh
little
my gosh.
face.
Oh my
There you
goodness.
go.
That is
Here
so
you are,
funny.
Chris.
Look at this.
That is so funny. That is brilliant.
Wow. Okay, thank you very much. Forever now, I drink a cup of tea or a coffee.
Yeah.
I can see myself as a
Yeah.
apple tree.
That is so
Yeah,
good.
as a 4-year-old apple tree.
No, I didn't know that. That is brilliant.
Thanks for blowing the budget. That's very
Yeah.
nice of you. Presents all round. This is quite a
This is great.
convivial podcast.
I'm glad.
isn't
Can
it?
you face yourself
Do you
to the
think they do this-
camera
do you
so
think-
that people
Do you think
can
they do this on Talking Politics?
Doubtful. Definitely don't as much bants as we do. Well, I'm glad you're really happy with your
Which camera do I look at? That one or that
I
one?
don't know.
2 or
Well,
3?
that one, maybe. I mean, we work in telly, but none of us can work it out. No. Anyway, that's it. Anything cool going on next week?
Royal Ascot.
Ascot.
Yeah.
And
this-
Garter Day.
Or Garter Day.
We will explain
Order
everything
of
next
Garter. So
week.
think of big plumes coming out of their heads and walking down the hill at Windsor Castle.
Okay.
When it is the most senior order of chivalry in the country. So has former prime ministers, former governors of the Bank of England in it, and there's only a limited number of
24.
spots.
Wow. Okay. Gosh, there's a lot to talk about coming up next week. And well, I'm looking forward to seeing you both in your finery. Thank you very much. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week. But if you're missing us, you can catch up with every episode, as always, on ITVX and on YouTube, as well as by listening on your favourite podcast platform. And please do subscribe and leave us a message. And if you want to get in touch, you can get in touch with us with anything, a question, a comment, anything you like. talkingroyals@itv.com or by leaving questions and comments on our socials. Get dressed up, look fabulous. Can't wait to see you next week. Thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.